Welcome to everybody. My name is Ashley Mataisi. I am the Director of Outreach with 10 Capital. 10 Capital is a funding as a service program, so we help startups and growth companies raise funding through our network of investors. We also have a very great and strong partner program, and I'd like to introduce our partner, founder and CEO of HIRECLOUT, Avetis. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Ashley. Thanks for having me.
Of course. Yeah. So if you just want to kick us off and go ahead and start with your presentation, we are here for the Hiring for Scale, how to 10x your company by hiring the right people.
Great. Is there a way, or if people are comfortable, maybe we can have everyone turn on their cameras. Would that be okay? If not, I totally understand.
That's fine with me. If you'd like to turn on your cameras, please do. We'd love to see your faces.
If not, no worries. There you go. We've got one taker. Thanks, Mark. Good to see you guys. Guys, so as Ashley was nice enough to introduce me, I'll tell you a little bit about myself. I am Avetis Antaplyan, the founder of HIRECLOUT. We are a technology recruiting and consulting firm. The reason I'm here is because of the amount of survey that I've had working with hundreds of companies over the last couple of decades, as well as being part of YPO, Vistage groups, and also Stanford cohort. I've realized that the number one challenge companies face is hiring, not just hiring, but hiring, correctly, hiring right. I've struggled myself with it throughout the years. Our company has hired and helped scale companies like Uber, Tinder, Hulu, OpenTable, Sony PlayStation, hundreds of other companies you may never heard of, but hopefully you will soon. We've seen a lot of companies do it right and scale and have massive billion-dollar exits. We've seen some that have kind of done U-turns over and over again and have accomplished nothing with it and ended up just disappearing. So I think it's a pretty important topic. In my Vistage and YPO groups, all we talk about is wrong hires and the struggles we deal with. Every meeting we have, leadership meeting, there's always some mention of the wrong person, how they're struggling. So that we figured this would be a good topic to talk about, especially because for, I believe, about 2 quarters, Q2 and Q3, no one was hiring. All of a sudden, everyone's hiring in Q4, as Brenda has seen, and most of you guys have seen, that everybody wants to hire. Everyone wants to hire right now, and it's a very competitive market. So what I was hoping to do, if everybody's okay, is because it's such a small group, each person kind of introduce themselves for a couple seconds and tell us what they're struggling with right now, so I can specifically discuss that topic. Is that cool? Great. Where do we start?
Mark, do you want to go ahead and start with for us?
Sure. My name is Mark Brimmer, founder and CEO of Excess Capacity. We are a community who believes sharing resources is socially responsible, valuable to businesses, while imperative to a sustainable future. Excess Capacity is an online marketplace where businesses rent, sell, and buy underutilized resources such as space, machines, professional services. Anything in a business underutilized is listed to rent and sell. Think of us as the Airbnb of excess capacity for businesses. Currently, I am structuring a plan for developing a sales force. Essentially, we want remote workers to join our platform to produce by bringing in members to our platform and increasing sales on the platform. My challenge is how best to structure this and how best to bring people on board who qualify making the minimum threshold of sales. That's essentially in our plan. Once you have established a reputation as making a sufficient number of sales, we want to bring you in to as a permanent hire. And you can speak to this in terms of when to hire. Do you provide tools that can tell us, when is the optimum time to bring in salespeople, direct salespeople, and sales managers?
Right. Thank you, Mark. Do you mind in the chat box maybe mentioning the company name or the address so we can do some research in the future? Cool.
Sure.
Thank you, Mark.
Okay. Paul, you want to give us a brief overview?
Sure. My name is Hall Martin. I'm the CEO founder of 10 Capital, and we help startups and investors connect for funding. And post-COVID, we're seeing a tremendous surge in the business here, both on companies raising funding as well as investors looking to get into the market for startup investing. And so we're looking to expand, look for investor relations people with experience with family offices, people with experience with venture capital, that type of thing. We're also looking just to expand the administration side of the business as we're looking to grow that side of it as far as offering more services to the clients that come through the program as well. We're also expanding the number of programs we have for investors around education. So it's a variety of roles, but it has to relate in some ways to the finance world in most cases. Sometimes it's administration, but many times it's finance related in that case. So that's what we're looking for. Interested to see what you have for that.
Nice. Thank you all. And is this in Austin alone or national, global?
It's national. We're remote. We're distributed, and so we're looking for remote workers. And there's great people in Austin, but around the country, there's probably even more. So we're going that way. Probably stay in the U.S. though.
Right. Thanks all.
Fabian, you want to tell us a bit about why you're here today?
Sure. So I'm Fabian Clausen. I'm a private investor based in Munich, Germany, home of the Oktoberfest. I'm always interested in meeting interesting service providers to work with.
Thanks.
I put my LinkedIn profile in the chat. You're all invited to connect with me if you like.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else brave enough to turn their camera on today?
No worries.
All right.
There you go.
Hi, I'm Anka Berg, and I am the founder of a early stage tech startup, Online Bar. And we are a platform for online ordering and payments, mobile payments for the hospitality industry. Think of all the venues that have been impacted mostly by COVID-19. So from restaurants, cafes, all the way to nightclubs, lounges, taverns. We provide essentially a platform similar to Uber Eats that an end user can utilize to make orders and payments at the venue. So not just for carryouts and delivery. And yeah, go ahead.
Biggest challenge?
I'm just here to learn more about how we can grow the company faster. I have a team of software developers in overseas in Romania, and I'm trying to understand, okay, if I would look to hire people here, why would be my it would provide certain strategic advantages or not? Should I rely on outsourcing or is it better to just do it all in the States?
Great. Great. Okay. I think we have Nick left, right?
Yes. Hi, Nick Maynard here. I would turn my camera on, but just got back from my afternoon run. So certainly not public facing appropriate, but it's very nice to meet everybody and thank you for putting this together. I'm a business development manager actually for Brezatech. We're a technology consulting services company that just opened up our very first office in Austin. We're a startup organization that provides a lot of project consulting solutions in the application development space, cloud migration services, things of that nature. And we also do lots of staffing as well. I am from Gartner, so familiar with the IT space, but new to recruiting, new to staffing, new to providing execution level tactical solutions. So I'm here to listen from some great minds like Avetis and get a better understanding of my potential client base's challenges.
Thanks, Nick. Appreciate it. Ashley, do you mind if I share my screen?
Please do.
Let's do it. All right. All right, guys. Just hopefully you're not over the whole Zoom situation, but we'll do our best to keep it somewhat entertaining, right? So can you guys hear me and see my screen okay?
Mm-hmm.
Perfect.
Yes.
Okay, guys. So I mean, I heard a little bit about your needs. I mean, we'll go into very common needs. You guys see it now? Okay. I might probably make this presentation mode. All right. So, all right, let's do this. Okay, guys. So typically needs of a startup, right? We historically need someone that does it all. I don't know how common this is for your company, but even though we're at now 46 employees, everybody, as Lee and Brenda would know, everybody does a little bit of everything, right? So everybody's wearing multiple hats. So for software engineering companies, your software engineer does DevOps, does QA, right? They might even answer the phones. So that's a big one. Long-term and fit and retention is huge, because a lot of folks, if they need a job, they're gonna do just that. They're gonna do their job 9 to 5, and they're gonna move on. We need someone that's long-term, that's, you know, is gonna actually pay back. Because for the first 6 months to a year, there's not a ton of value added. Is how much can they help us from there on, right, is the key. Let me turn this off. Technically strong. As you guys know, we need folks that are all those things, but are also very technically strong. Because if you're hiring your first, your second, your third employee, especially software engineers, they can't just be somebody off the streets. They have to be very, very strong technically. Otherwise, what you're going to end up having is a bunch of spaghetti code 2, 3, 4 years down the line, right? Same thing goes for salespeople, Nick. Same thing goes for those of you, Mark, that are going to be hiring sales folks. Same thing, doesn't matter. They can come in, do the job functionally, but how strong are they will determine how quickly you can scale. Company culture fit is huge, I think, right? We all need people that fit in culturally, because again, if you have 10 different cultures, you know, you have 10 different cultures, your company's not going to be rowing in the right direction. Brenda reminded me that I am not in, excuse me, guys, I'm not in presentation mode. So let me get that in there. All right, good. Hopefully this is a little bit better. You guys see this okay? Yeah, perfectly. Right. Okay. So someone, you need people that embrace your vision, because again, if they have their own vision for what they're trying to accomplish and they don't care about your vision, what are you going to end up doing? Right. How far can your company actually go? I'm sure you all have different reasons that is not on here, but this is very common goals that I see all the time. Some challenges we face, right? Interview process. Is it too short? Is it too lengthy? The time needed to actually interview people and give them the right amount of interview. Let me turn that off. To actually dedicate that much time and effort to interviewing while you have to run your company, while you have to manage your staff, while you have to do the work yourself. A lot of founders, I don't know, did I pronounce it right? Anka, right? I have a feeling you probably still write code if you're technical, right? Even though you're the founder of the company. Am I right?
I am more on the business side, but
oh, you're on the business side, but still.
Yes, I understand. Yeah,
you understand. You end up doing everything. Green fields. You know what we consider exciting greenfield work is a lot of times daunting and scary to folks that aren't used to this world, right? That you're used to being told what to do, requirements already set out for them, and sometimes greenfields, as exciting as it is, it's also very scary for the wrong individuals. The volume of qualified candidates who are actually interested is a major challenge for everybody, including those that are especially startups, right? Benefits. A lot of times we're trying to recruit people out of these big companies who offer ridiculous amount of benefits, and we can't compete, right? A lot of startups especially can't compete because they might not even have a benefits package. And if they do, it's basic. It's enough to get by while they grow their business. And then, compensation is a big one as well, because we want to hire the best, right? But sometimes we can't afford market compensation, especially when we're competing, especially in technology, when we're competing against the Googles and the Apples and Facebook and those kind of companies, because that's how they get people to stay. It's not necessarily the vision, it's not the mission. A lot of times it's the incredible compensation and benefits packages that allow for them to stay 2, 3, 4 years. Even then they have turnover. We already talked about some of your challenges, right? I don't know if there's anything that you've thought of, but sometimes it feels like this. Brenda put this together, but basically you're like a little kid looking up all the steps, and it just seems daunting. That's how I look at it. When I think about, are you ready to actually interview and hire? Mark, you asked about time frames, right? Is it the right time? I think Nick asked something similar. Well, first of all, the questions I have is, do you have a clear vision? Do you actually have a clear vision? Is it written? Is it shared with the rest of your team, right? Unless you're a one-person shop, you probably already have a team. Do you all share in the same vision? Right? Or is it just your vision in your head? This is very common for founders of companies. We have this great vision, but no one knows about it. Or they hear about it. They hear about it, but it's not anywhere visual. It's not described the same thing. And different people in the company describe it differently. So it's very, very important for you to have a clear vision written, so people can actually see where they're heading. Core values, I don't know if you have core values. There is no right and wrong, but if you do have core values, make sure that you actually live and breathe those things, and make sure that they're not permission to play core values like, honesty and integrity and work ethics. I think that's a given. Right. There are more things that drive your business. Like some of ours are, very unique, like Shuhari and, I got you, about, teamwork and collaboration and things like that. And so it's very important that you hire, fire, and promote within those core values. Do you have a success description? A lot of times you hear job descriptions as the thing to have, and I don't agree with job descriptions. I think those are just bullets of tasks that need to be done. I think a success description is more like, if we look up in a year, what would you have succeeded? What would you have done that would make both of us feel like we've succeeded? What role did you play in our growth? So think about that when you're creating this. Consistent interview process. It's very difficult to compare and contrast and know if you've hired the right people if each individual is hired with a different success interview process, or sometimes different people are doing the interview different ways, different stages. So you want to have a very consistent interview process so that you're comparing people correctly. Right. So if it's Jeff doing the first interview, make sure it's Jeff doing the first interview each time. Make sure Jeff is using the specific questions you guys set out as the most important questions for that time frame. If one person has to go through 4 rounds, make sure every person has to go through 4 rounds of interviews. If someone's doing cultural exercises, well, make sure everyone's doing cultural exercise. Otherwise, what you have is an inconsistent interview process, which always gets you inconsistent results, right? Realistic budget and time frame. As much as, I don't like salary.com or pay scale, it is a good starting point, but I'd also really talk to other folks in the industry to make sure that you have realistic budget for these roles. If you're looking for a CTO and you're looking to pay 125, you're really not even going to get a senior engineer. So you really want to make sure that you're realistic and the time frame too. If you want, hey, I need someone in the seat in 2 weeks, there's no way you're going to get someone great in 2 weeks, right? Because there's not enough time and forethought to make that happen. Once these are all set out, start with the who. A lot of times we are focused on the what. Can you solve this problem? Here's a problem we have. Here's a challenge we have. Instead, start thinking about the who the person is. Is this person a core value fit? If they're not, pass. Don't hire someone that could do a job, could potentially, get your product launch or could, sell or whatever it is, yet they don't fit in with your core values because it's a disaster. Right. And then GWC is all about the get it, want it, and capacity to do it. So get it is, do they understand the job? Do they actually get what they're supposed to accomplish? Do they actually want to do that? Right. Long term, not because they need a job, but they're actually excited about doing that job. And then capacity or capability is not just technical. Do they have the capability and the capacity to do it? So if you're a startup company and you need someone to work 12-hour days and someone just had twin babies, I don't know, maybe it's not the right time for them in their lives to be able to do that, right? Maybe it's too much. Maybe someone just doesn't have the ability to come in the office every day, yet you need someone in the office every day because you're building a hardware product. So that's what that is. It's not just the technical or intellectual capability. It's also the capacity to do it with time and effort and all that. You know, create clear KPIs. Make sure that you actually know what a successful hire looks like and what that person's achieving, not just functional keywords or functional tasks that they have to do on a regular basis. Right people, right seats, right? You make sure you have the right person, make sure they're in the right seat. If they're the right person, you put them in the wrong seat, they're probably going to fail. If they're the wrong person in the right seat, they're still going to fail because they're the wrong person. And then make sure that they have some structure. You know, for every, you know, a star that doesn't need any structure who creates their own, there's a bunch of other really great role players or B+ players or even A- players that need a lot of structure to succeed. So make sure you have that built out. You know, if technical is very, very important to you, to assist you, maybe you have some form of a technical assessment. And that could also be for hiring engineers or salespeople. It's just a specific technical assessment. I would say keep it short. Some of our clients historically have done, you know, anything above 4 or 5 hours, people are unlikely to actually do it, especially if they're employed and buried in excellence. They're not going to work for free for 6, 8, 10 hours just because they're lucky to have the opportunity for you. They won't do it. They'll say they'll do it, but they'll disappear on you. They'll take other jobs. Try to keep it within 1 to 2.5 hours. If you want for sales, Nick and Mark, if you guys want someone to do a presentation, should take an hour to two for them to put it together. And then cultural assessments. There's a bunch of them out there. We use Cultural Index. I can introduce you directly to the founder of that company, but there's also Predictive Index. There's DISC. There's Briggs-Myers. There's a lot of great ways to kind of figure out if someone's going to be a cultural fit. I would not recommend it as a test prior to you interviewing them. I would recommend it as after at least the first interview. So far, so good. Any questions?
I just wanted to say, Avita, we can see your talking points if you wanted to put it in full presentation mode, or
Let's do that. Let's do that.
Just FYI, not a big deal.
No, I appreciate it. How about now? No? Let's try it one more time. Double monitors, so I have it.
Oh, yeah.
That's probably why. I think Brenda's going to come help me. Brenda, so when I did it, it ended up on this screen.
Okay, just drag it over.
I can't, unfortunately. I can't.
It's not a big deal.
Let me try this. How about now?
Perfect.
Same? Yeah, perfect?
Yeah.
Perfect.
All right. Thanks, guys. All right. Thank you, Brenda. All right. So go. Once you're ready, you're set. Let's go. Right. So actually, let's start the interview process. We're in the interview process. The key thing I said here is be decisive, but don't rush. What that means to me is if the first person you interview is great and they're the right person, hire them. You know, early on, even in a relationship, you think right person, wrong time. Well, would you rather have the right person, wrong time, or the wrong person, right time? So you don't always need to interview 15, 20 people to find the right person. Maybe that right person is number one. It's unlikely because, you do want to compare, but if in the rare circumstance, the first person you interview is phenomenal, pull the trigger, don't wait around, or try to get a very quick second or third person you can interview very quickly so you can have an opportunity to compare, but don't wait around and say, God, this person's great, but it's the first person that I've interviewed. She's great, but I need to see other people. No, if she's the right person, hire her. Don't wait. At the same time, if you've interviewed the 30th person and they are not the right person, don't hire them. Keep going. Right? Don't just settle because, they happen to be the 30th person. You're exhausted. Get the candidates buy-in on your goals, your vision, and your KPIs. Just because they're going along for the ride doesn't mean they're going to be able to do the job or agree that they want to do the job. So it's very, very important for you to actually kind of get their buy-in, to understand the strengths, the weaknesses that they have, the challenges that they face, We talked about green fields. Hey, are you sure you can handle this form of green field? Can you really handle the fact that, right now we're interviewing a lot of accounting and finance people because we're considering adding on as a service. Well, a lot of times they're all excited until we tell them how challenging it's going to be, where they're going to be the only ones and they have to build it from scratch, and it's truly greenfield. It's a great opportunity, but it's very challenging. A lot of times they're scared off, and we're okay with that. We don't want the wrong person in that seat. I wrote, be realistic, but don't settle. Don't settle for someone bad just because your comp structure creates a scenario where that's all you can hire. At the same time, be realistic. A lot of times I talk to a startup, they describe, we want someone out of Facebook or Google or, Apple. And unfortunately, Netflix pays $300K on a engineer salary. So trying to get that person is probably unrealistic. So you might be wasting your time. Even if you get them, it's probably short-lived. It's probably going to lead to a lot of frustrations. Now, it's not all about money, but just make sure you're being realistic with your search, which is funny because on the other side, we're saying don't settle, right? But it's very important. Once you find the right person, you need to sell. Get them excited about the job, the vision, the goals, what they can accomplish with your company. Don't just make an offer on some, DocuSign and expect them to be excited. Once you've found that right person, you have to sell it, because that right person is probably the right person for 10 other companies. So you can't just assume, hey, because I want to hire you, you should work here. You've got to really, really go out there and make sure they feel love and they feel like they're the right fit. And then I wrote first day, best day. It's a big one here at HIRECLOUT. Before anyone starts, Brenda makes sure that when they show up, there's a big 75-inch or 82-inch TV that says, welcome, Brenda, right? And it makes people feel good. They have a swag bag. They have a backpack with all the goodies that they need. And they have their desk set up. Jackie sets up their IT equipment. They walk in, they have a job description. They know everything so that their first day feels good. Someone takes them out to lunch. We typically have drinks their first week to kind of celebrate. So it's very important for them to have a good day, good first day, good first week, good first month, because that really gets them going. Any questions, guys, before we move on from this section? Anything that doesn't make sense? No? So far, so good? Wonderful. We put out some good questions. You don't have to use these, but these are some really good questions for you to ask during that first interview. Before they know all about you, and they know how to create answers that pleases you, ask them some questions like, what are your career goals? What are you actually trying to accomplish this year, in 3 years, and 5 years? And hear them out. What are you good at professionally and like to do? You want to know not just what they have done, but what they are good at and want to do. What are you not good at or not interested in doing? That's a big, big, big thing, because if, Nick, in your case, let's say you're trying to hire a great full desk recruiter, but they hate doing business development. Well, it's probably not a good fit for your role. Even though they've done it, it's on their resume, it doesn't matter. Anka, for you, if it's a full stack engineer and has done some back-end development, but they hate back-end development, but you need them to do back-end development, it's probably not going to be a fit long-term. How would your last 5 managers rate you? And the way I ask this question is I actually ask the manager's name, because at the end, when I want references, I don't want your colleagues, your buddies that, you're willing to give out. I want the 5 people that you said would rate you really, really high. So, in this case, if Nick, if Ashley's your manager, I want to know it was Ashley. And at the end, I want Ashley as your reference. I want Hall as your reference, not a buddy of yours who also quit and was willing to help you out. What were you hired to do? Is a big one. What were you actually hired to do at that job? What did you accomplish? What are you most proud of? What did you actually do in that year, that 2, that 3 years? Okay, you did the job, you were paid, that's great. What were you hired to accomplish? What did you actually accomplish? What are some low points during that job? At what point were you unmotivated? Were you upset? Whatever it was, wanted to quit. What did you do about it? Who did you go to? You want to see if they're problem solvers. If problem solving is important to you, you want to make sure that they know how to problem solve, that they've dealt with problems. Or do they run? If every time there was a problem they left, believe me, they'll find a problem at your company and they will leave. You want problem solvers. Who were the people you worked with? You know, what kind of people were you working with? Again, you're gathering names. Why did you leave? If you go back 4, 5, 6 companies and you find out what people left, you'll see their judgment. You know, if they were laid off at all 5 companies, it's not the companies, it's them, right? If all 5 companies, it was a terrible boss and terrible culture, it's probably them. You know, if all 5 times the job was too far for a commute, you know, what were they thinking, right? At one point, don't you measure how far a company is? So this is very important for it. After all these interviews, you want to screen out everyone that didn't strongly match your KPIs. It's very, very important. Even though you like them, you don't like them, they came in, looked like $1 million or whatever, it doesn't matter. If they don't match against your core values and your KPIs, pass. Don't waste your time. So at the end, you really want to evaluate, does this person that you interviewed and went four rounds with, do they have a 90% chance of success in this role? And if they do, and they are the top 10% of their industry, of top 10% of the people you interview with, hire them. It's a yes. Be decisive, make great offers. Don't wait around, don't start low, you know, wait for them to go high, meet in the middle, make a great offer and make it pretty much your best and final, maybe within a few thousand here and there. A little bit of people don't want to walk away without anything on the table, but present really good offers that makes them feel wanted. Don't start low and see if you can get a bargain, right? And if it's a no, move on. Again, if it's the 30th person and they're not a good fit, move on from them. Don't hire them. Don't settle. If they're the first person, they're phenomenal, hire them. Be decisive. What we typically do that I think has worked out really well is instead of using 1 to 5 ratings or 1 to 10, we use a 4 ratings, because with a 5 system, the most common thing you see people say someone's a 3. Right? Because it's so easy, especially because if they're colleagues or fellow managers, they're not the boss. They usually don't want to say 1 or 5 or 4 even. They want to say 3 because it gives them all this wiggle room if the person doesn't work out. Well, I told you I wasn't really hot on this person. So what we use is a 4 system. 4 is hell yes, I want this person and I will fight you to have them on my team. A 3 is a yes, but I can be, you know, persuade otherwise. 2 is a no, it's a soft no, but I could be persuade otherwise. And 1 is I'm a strong no, and I'm going to fight you not to hire this person, because even if this person is not on my team, it's going to be bad for the company culture. You see, there's really no wiggle room there for 7s or 3s. It's either a yes, definite yes, a yes, or a no and a strong no. Any questions so far on this? This is a big area, guys. So if you have questions, please let me know.
This is great, Avetis. And I know we just had this on the calendar until 2, so apologies for going slightly over, but I do want to make sure we get everyone's questions answered.
Yes, yes. So that's the next slide, and the only last slide, basically Q&A, guys. Thank you for hearing me out. I know it was very, very kind of surface level, but we can dive deeper if you guys like.
Go for that.
I have a question, Avetis. Avetis, is that how you pronounce your name?
Close, Avetis.
Avetis, okay. Contingency hires. Do you have a tribe prior to formally hiring someone? Let's say you can have them on board for 2 or 3 months and then make a decision. Do you have something in your clauses that if it doesn't work out within the first month or so, that you can back out that or retract that?
Mark, most firms have some form of guarantee period. And there's also different forms of recruiting, right? So we happen to do retained executive search. We do contingent searches, which is the one you described. And we also do contracting. So the way the way you want to go about this is 2 ways. One, you could hire a contract to permanent employee, like you mentioned. This person, in fact, wouldn't even be on your books. They wouldn't even be your employee. You Ashley hires someone, and she utilizes their expertise for 30, 60, 90 days. At that point, there's some kind of conversion with the recruiting firm. You could absolutely do it that way. There is 0 commitment. Someone can do a job for 5, 6 days. You call and say, it's not a fit anymore. Please have them not come back. So there's no HR issues here. The challenge is, I don't know if you'll get someone outstanding You know, a lot of times these folks are unemployed. That's why they would take a position that's contracting. Now there's consultants that are incredible. Don't get it twisted. But in temp to hire, you don't always get the best of the best. Doesn't mean you can't do it. You could just hire contractors, consultants. Number two, yes, most recruiting firms have a 60 or 90-day guarantee period, which gives you an opportunity to evaluate that individual and replace them, potentially, or even a refund, depends. Ours is different than the norm. With retained search, same thing. Typically, they have longer guarantee periods. For our retained searches, we typically do 6 months to a year because we're hiring CTOs, CIOs, VPs of engineering. These are, you know, $40,000, $50,000, $100,000 fees. And so it's very important for people to be very happy long-term, you know? So yes, most firms will have some form of that. Great question.
Thank you.
Avetis, what tools, remote work tools, are you seeing used most frequently these days?
Oh, that's Zoom has been like the go-to, right? And folks have taken Zoom and made it something bigger and bigger and bigger. Teams is one that we also use. We use Zoom and Teams, but now people are using Teams with phones. I just heard from a client today that they're looking for someone to integrate Teams into actually using that as a phone system. So that's a big one. You know, Zoom corporate has a lot of opportunities for breakout rooms. So if you guys had big kickoff meetings, Brenda discovered that you could have, you know, if you have a group of 40 that you have meetings worldwide, but you want to break them up into smaller groups, you can do that, right, Brenda? Slack is a good one for most tech companies. They like to use Slack to communicate. You know, I think it's all about KPIs. It's all about accountability, making sure that people know they're accountable for something. You know, we've historically not liked remote. Before, it was for the fact that you couldn't hold people accountable because you didn't see what they were working. That's no longer the case because we have great KPIs. Now it's more about collaboration. We prefer to collaborate, but for 6 months we were all remote and it actually worked out pretty well, relatively well. What else? What are some other tools that I've seen that are great out there? I like the hybrid model. Actually, I like to be able to have folks to work from home a bit, but also to be in the office so you could put a name and face and get to know them culturally. That's a big mishap right now. People are resigning after, you know, 60, 90 days from some companies that I'm aware of. And if you think about it, you never even met this person. There is no loyalty. There is no, you know, collaboration. This person was just a voice email address and at best a Zoom face, you know, there's no relationship building going on.
Yeah, agreed.
I was just wondering, Avetis, because you asked, I mean, I didn't know there's the Trainual platform that we're familiar with. There's the EOS. If people aren't familiar with that, maybe you could mention that.
Sure.
Just a couple more just off the top of my head.
Yeah, Trainual is a great system for you to get. Thank you, Brenda, to get all of your systems into one place as a training. It's like Train You All. I don't know if you've heard of it, but you could put all of your training modules, chapters, everything in one place where anyone could look at it anywhere in the country, in fact, anywhere in the world. EOS it's kind of a more of a business model that we subscribe to, and it just means that every single person knows your rocks, what we call 90-day goals, and everybody has, you know, specific metrics that they have to meet. There's to-dos and all kinds of different things. It keeps everybody really closely aligned with their company goals and their own and their team.
All right, great. Well, I think if there are no other questions, I'll just thank Avetis again so much for this information. This was great information. Thank you so much. We'll get everyone in touch if you'd like after this to kind of dive deeper into HIRECLOUT's role here. And if anyone wants to learn more about raising funding, we're happy to answer those questions as well.
That sounds great, Ashley. Are we going to put it in one email so we all know each other and we can ask questions and help each other out?
Can do that for sure.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, everyone. Hopefully you got what you needed, and my emails will be on that email. So you're welcome to reach out to us. If you want to chat for a few minutes, I'm happy to help.
Yeah, we can stay on. I just launched a poll as well. So if you guys want to take a couple minutes to answer the questions, that would be helpful for us as well.
This is great. So easy to fill out.
I loved the question suggestions that you had, Avetis, for the interviews. There were a couple in there that I don't think I would have thought to ask.
We also asked two or three really goofy ones that it's historically worked out great for us. People always laugh and they think it's a joke, but it's great. We ask logic questions. One being, what would you do if you were in a room with two cages, and you'd have to, in one there's a tiger and the other there's a lion. Who would you release to attack you and why? So that's one that you kind of hear people's thought process. What would you do if you were a pencil in a blender? Is one that always gets yeah, it's crazy, but it really shows how people think, how creative they are, how quickly they get frustrated, how stubborn they are, how playful and fun. That's a cool one. We ask, what would you do if you inherited an elephant? Right? That one gets a lot of kind of thinking. You see people jump to conclusions and just say one thing and that's it. And they're not willing to kind of budge. And you see really great creativity come out of some people. And you see how far they'll go before they get frustrated.
Yeah, I like that. I know I've been asked once, are narwhals real? And I thought, well, yes, but this has nothing to do with the job. But I thought that was an interesting one.
Hilarious. I wonder what they were looking for.
Yeah, I have no idea. I don't know.
Interesting.
Maybe not a science-related job.
Not at all. I bet. It's very cool. Actually, does you and Hall, do you look for organizations that are Series A for funding? Is it pre-Series A? Where is your sweet spot?
So we look for companies that have revenue, so have the growth story to show, the traction to show, and some revenue proven in the market. We used to take on pre-revenue companies, but we found that our sweet spot really is those that have some revenue to show.
Right. Wonderful. Good to hear.
Yeah.
Is
anybody in the audience raising funds currently or plan to be soon? Let's see. A couple of you aren't telling me. I see it in the poll.
We will have definitely some recommendations and referrals. Actually, the key is the revenue part. We've got to figure out who's early stage enough but still has revenue to show.
Sure. Great.
Good one. What's the furthest? At what point does it no longer make sense? Is it startups that have already received Series A, or does it not matter?
Paul, you want to answer that one?
Oh, yeah, we help companies raise funding all the way up to private equity. So we do Series A, B, and C, and beyond. So nice. Typically it goes way up.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Yeah. Does anyone have any other questions we can get answered, or just want to chat for a little bit and dig deeper into Avetis's brain about hiring? All right.
Seems like we're good. Lee, we see your lips moving, but we don't
hear you.
I have one question.
Yeah.
Sure, Mark.
Okay, Avetis, you had talked about DISC and some of these other tools, let's say Myers-Briggs, et cetera. Those are more generalized. Anything in specific for sales?
Yeah, Mark, I love Cultural Index, and I can introduce you to Mark Boland, the gentleman that I work with there. It's really good.
Okay.
Predictive Index is good as well, but Cultural Index for me has been a little bit more useful. I can do an intro. It's really nice. You see what their traits are, and you see how they look at their current job, and you see where you fit in. And there's no good and bad. It's all about each one is relative to the other. So if someone's, for example, it tracks their how autonomous they are, how social they are, how patient or impatient they are, and how their conformity gene, or traits, how rebellious they are. So if you find someone that's highly not autonomous at all, yet they're very rebellious, you're probably going to struggle with someone, right? Because they need a lot of hand holding, yet they're too stubborn to ask for help. So that's kind of a disaster. It also measures ingenuity, and also measures their what was the other one, how emotional they are. So are they a logical thinker or emotional thinker? Again, for our company, folks that have been highly emotional have typically not worked out. So if I see someone that's a 1, 2, or 3 on the emotional scale, typically we won't hire them because the job is too up and down for them to be able to deal with it. So they're high 1 minute, they're really low next.
Yeah.
So we typically won't hire folks from that. If someone is introverted or extroverted, it doesn't matter. It's just in relation to the other things that we look for. If they're extremely creative, the ingenuity is at 9 or 10, that seems great, but that could be them chasing balloons and chasing, you know, shiny objects versus really focusing on the job at hand. So that's kind of also worrisome. You know, so it's a combination of things that you get analysis of, and I can do an intro if you want to drop me a note into Mark directly.
Okay. Just quickly, an observation is Enneagram is also a very generalized tool that's been used for centuries.
Wow.
Also, in terms of sales training, I am most familiar with Sandler sales system, and that involves role play. It involves constant reinforcement of what they're learning and what they're practicing in the field. Any others that you are aware of that you would recommend?
Unfortunately not, Mark. Maybe others have it. Our business is it's such a technical kind of sale, and it's so based on data that they're really, the sales tactics haven't helped historically. And if they have, it's more of a very specific, maybe a training with the recruit, you know, for business development or recruiting or account management, but we don't use too many of those things.
Okay.
Cool.
Great. Thank you for these great questions, Mark.
Yes.
I guess if that is all the questions for now, we will go ahead and wrap up. Again, Avetis, thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
My pleasure.
Yeah, and everybody for attending. Again, thank you. We'll get this recording over to you so you can review the content and share it if you'd like. So again, thank you everyone so much.
Bye, Ashley. Bye all. Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.